I am very pleased this afternoon to have an opportunity to talk with Andrea Headley. Andrea is a new assistant professor at McCourt. She conducts research and teaching on police community relations, on racial equity, public administration, management, and organizational behavior. She received her PhD in public affairs and an MS in criminal justice from Florida International University. She comes to McCourt by way of the Ohio State University after completing a postdoc at the Goldman School of Public Policy at the University of California, Berkeley. We are so excited to have you with us, Andrea. We have been looking forward to you joining us, whether it's virtually or physically in Old North. I know that your work has been concentrated in the context of criminal justice, namely policing. Can you share a little bit more about your work and what inspired you to pursue this particular area?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for welcoming me. I am also just really excited to be joining. And so I think it's important to make sure it's known that the excitement is mutual. But I really started my work in criminal justice, I think more broadly, ever since I was an undergrad. I've always been interested in criminal justice. And so I thought I was going to be a public defender. And that kind of didn't happen. But I think it's important to share that because to me, it shows that I've always really had a soft spot for communities or groups that may be marginalized or may be more vulnerable. But my specific interest around police community relations in particular kind of sparked really as a result of Ferguson and the death of Michael Brown at the hands of police officers. And for me, it's almost like we're back here again, which is definitely an interesting feeling, or it sparks interesting feelings for me. But that sparked my research and really trying to understand if there was anything that the organization or the managerial practices and policies can do to make a difference for improving police community relations, particularly with communities of color. And so that started my journey down this path.
Reflecting on the media treatment of these issues that are so central to your expertise, what issues has the media gotten right? Are there things that you are pleased to see finally reflected in kind of popular media, or are there issues or perspectives that you think are missing?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I'll start maybe with the first half of things that I think the media has gotten right. One, I think it's just for me great to see that like this topic is getting a lot of attention again. I think it's important to recognize, although we may have made some progress, that we are nowhere near where we need to be. And so I think just as a whole, I'm pleased with the amount of attention that this issue around police use of force and racial disparities more broadly is getting. But two things in particular that I think I am really pleased about or excited about the potential for change with regard to the media coverage is really the need for federal standards. And to me, obviously, you know, we all know we live in a decentralized country and policing is one of the most decentralized parts of the government. And so thinking about how we could move to more of a federal agenda of regulating or advising police departments across the country to me is really important. And I think that at least what I take from kind of the protests and what we've seen happening is that what a police officer does in one place affects police officers everywhere. And so if there are spillover effects that happen as a result of problematic policing behaviors, then it makes sense that there would be some federal guidelines that can help all police departments reach the bar that we are looking to have in the United States. So that's the first thing that I'm really excited about. And then the second thing, I think I am also excited about the conversation around reinvesting in communities and community well-being and community safety more broadly speaking. And there's definitely different aims that people have taken to, you know, talk about that. But I think just talking about that in general is really important. And so I'm excited about that also.
Well, I would just echo that second point as someone who in my own work has really focused on kind of the ways systems interact with one another. I think the question of the things that are, the services that find themselves currently being provided by police departments as opposed to social service departments or other things and the funding of different institutions is really critical, and it's important to work across those kinds of systems. And I think that's one of the exciting things about McCourt, is that we have faculty with kind of a broad range of expertise, and it's kind of an opportunity to talk both with our students and with one another about how these different areas overlap or should overlap one with the other. So you were very kind in that I asked you for things that their media is getting right and getting wrong, and you only talked about what they're getting right, and I'll let that be. But I'd just like to invite you. Are there things when I talk to reporters or see news reports about things in my area of expertise, there are often things subtleties maybe, that I wish people would get a little bit better. Are there things we're missing?
The first thing I would say is that I think there should be more conversation around what has been prohibiting change, right? So we've been down this road of police use of force, of protest, time and time again, right? It's not a new issue. And so I think it's important to take a step back and try and figure out what the roadblocks have been. And I don't think there's been enough attention around that. There's more attention around this is what, the policy should be, or this is the problem, but less about trying to identify, okay, why can't we solve this? Why haven't we solved that? The conversation that's happening around disinvestment or defunding or reinvesting in the community, whatever you want to call it, is really similar at the very core to the ideals that surround community policing. And so to me, I think most people are on board with community policing, and it seems like it's a definitely more of a touchy topic when we think about defunding. But at the heart of both of them, it's really about the community and making sure that safety is a priority and the community is responsible and has the driving seat for promoting safety, right? And to me, I think if we can talk more about how these two concepts really overlap, I think it could then propel change in a hopefully quicker way.
So you've had a number of opportunities to engage with the press in recent weeks. What was the best question asked? And were there any questions you should have been asked but weren't?
Yeah, so to my surprise, actually, the thing that I have been asked the most, or the topic that people want to talk about the most, is body cameras. And that I've done research on body cameras, and so it makes sense. But to me, body cameras is such a very specific niche area within the larger conversation of police reform, of police community relations more broadly. So that has been surprising. But even within that niche area, I think the best question I've been asked thus far is what the limits of body-worn cameras are. I think it's important to be really transparent about that, rather than just saying, all officers need this, we're going to propose, move forward with this as a policy solution. To be really clear about what body cameras can and cannot do, how they've been used, how they should be used, and get more into the fine-grained details of implementation and management. And so I've been really excited when I get asked that question specifically. The question that I haven't been asked, or that I think should be asked, is, particularly if we're thinking about body cameras still, is what do we not know about body cameras? And so to me, I think it's really clear that body cameras have been implemented, or they really proliferated across the United States as a result of, Michael Brown's death and race relations around police use of force. And we have no idea how body cameras actually impact racial disparities. There's not been one study published on the impact related to outcomes with regard to race and ethnicity. And so to me, I'm like, that just blows my mind, and no one's talking about that, right? And again, this conversation is about race and policing in 2020 now, and still I think we don't have anything to say from a scientific perspective of what we know about the impact for that. So to me, I think we need to do some more digging and more questioning around that specifically.
It's sobering to think about what we don't know, but also really good to think about the ways in which you and other scholars working on these issues could really advance the agenda, the way that evidence could really advance the conversation, has already advanced the conversation, but can continue to advance the conversation, both on optimal policies, but then also on these critical issues that you address, particularly about implementation, about the intended and unintended, or kind of more complicated consequences of policies. So the issues that you address are clearly front and center in public debates. What do you see as the challenges and opportunities of your research being so very policy relevant?
Yeah, so I will start with the challenges. I think for me personally, information overload is just one of the big challenges. There's so many different voices on this issue. There's so many different research questions, people attacking it from so many different angles that I think it can be very easy to just get lost in everything that's happening at such a rapid pace. Another challenge, I think, again, maybe on a more personal level, is just trying to make sure that when I do speak and engage and do this work, that I'm really exercising the appropriate amount of care and morally, ethically, scientifically, I think standards maybe that this research deserves, particularly because I think people's livelihoods are at stake. And so just being really cautious of that, I think, could be a challenge in terms of trying to navigate that during this time. But in terms of the opportunities, I think you kind of touched on it already, actually. To me, I think while it is really daunting and sobering that we are still trying to figure out what can we do to not kind of be in the same place again with regards to police use of force and race and things like that in the next 10 years or what have you, I think this current scene presents an opportunity to do really meaningful work and work that can cross different academic boundaries, right? So there's political scientists and economists and sociologists and public health specialists, all are working on this issue from different angles. And to me, I think it presents an opportunity for different people to come to the table and to try and understand and attack a policy problem that is really meaningful. And so I think for me, that is one of the things that I'm looking forward to.
What are you most excited about as you prepare to teach our future policy leaders this year at McCourt?
I think in terms of maybe the specific things that, or the specific courses I will be teaching, one, I think when I think about public management, one of the things that excites me is the opportunity to be able to show students how important management really is, right? And so I think oftentimes we talk a lot about the importance of public policy, right, broadly speaking. And of course, I think that is really important, but sometimes in the conversation, it may get missed about the implementation or the management aspects of it that really make or break a policy. And so to me, I think really getting students excited about that is going to be something I look forward to. And then, of course, when I think about my specialty area of criminal justice policy, I think that for me, one of the things that I'm super excited about is being able to hopefully create a learning environment with students that shows why criminal justice is so important and that it touches on so many different other policy aspects or policy areas, right? So education, public health, all of the different fields I mentioned before, right? When we're thinking about access to jobs or immigration, right? Everyone has maybe a specific policy area they will come in with and they're interested in, but showing them the overlaps and how it connects to their own interest areas, I think for me is going to be really exciting.
Can you share with us the best piece of career advice you've received?
Yeah, and so I think I will go to two different pieces of advice. One I think is a little bit more practical, and so I'll start with that one. And so one is just let your reputation precede you, right? And so making sure your work ethic, your passion, your skill set speaks for itself is really important. And there's so many different ways you can do that. But I think that is something that has stuck with me in making sure that I do the best work I can wherever I am, in hopes that I know that that will speak for itself. And then the second thing that I always try to remember, particularly when I think about the kind of lofty goal of trying to impact change and make policy, better or what have you, is really remembering your why. So when things get challenging, when things are difficult, when you want to give up, remembering the reason why you started, I think is really important. And it's something that I do continuously so that I can reinvigorate myself and motivate myself to continue to do this work.
both good pieces of advice that, they're good pieces of advice for me too. So thank you on behalf of our students and our community for that. And thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you, Maria. It's been great. I look forward to getting started soon.